my friend, it's Pat Sloan here on Block Wednesday. What's in your closet? So there you can see I did get all that border around the first block. So what's today's block? We're going to do that first. Talk about the block. It is hats. Block number 8 are hats that we wear. Here's the single sheet. So you can see the block a little bit closer. And then I have got a drop repeat. So there's a drop repeat. So the drop means that there's half blocks on the alternating rows and then a coloring page. Now hats. When you do your blocks, tell me if you wear hats, you love hats, you don't love hats. I personally am not a hat person, but I've had skin cancer and so I wear them. I still don't like them. I have a small head and it's really hard to find hats that are the right size. I tend to wear visors a lot because they will cover my face, but of course they don't help with my scalp, which is not so good. So I do have hats. It's just, yeah, they just don't fit. They don't fit. My head's small. But I have some now. Okay, what we're going to do is pick fabric for this first and then make the block. After we make the block, I am going to go over the third row there of the block a day on the horizontal. And then after that, I can take it off the wall, put all of the Block Wednesdays up so we can see them together. So we're going to go to the other side and build this block. So first I want to show you a little bit about the block construction and why I set it up the way I do, and I'll tell you an alternate you might like to try. So when I'm doing blocks, I write these in a basic format. I pretty much stay in that format as most designers do, also books and magazines. They kind of have a style guide, a style that you write in. And I write with a lot of half square triangles because they are the least amount of waste. If I'm doing sew and flips, there's waste. Sew and flips though allow you to have more of your image showing without cutting it. So there's pros and cons. You either chop up the image and you have little waste, or you show more of the image and you've got waste. So on this block, I wrote it with lots of squares and half square triangles. You could definitely make this scrappy if you wanted to. If you wanted to do like all, pink, and then you could make all of these, scrappy. But let's say you wanted to instead convert some of these units to strips. So like what you do to do that is I'm gonna have to write from this side. So each of these blocks finished, you always work with the finished size. They're finished 2 inches, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, right? It's a 12-inch block, unfinished 12.5. So if I wanted to make these 2 units, 1 unit instead, what would it be? 2 plus 2 is 4. So it would be, I'm writing upside down, it would be 4 by the 2-inch width. Then you have to add your half-inch seam allowance. So it is 4.5 by 2.5. Half-inch seam allowance on each of them. Something like this unit here, if you wanted this unit to be 1, then you would have the 2, 4, 6. So it'd be 2 by 6, so it'd be 2.5 by 6.5. Then you would have a sew and flip on the end and a sew and flip on the end. So these two would stay 2.5-inch square. 2 by 2.5 would be your sew and flip square, and a sew and flip there. You have done this a zillion times on a zillion patterns if you've sewn any quilts at all. It's a really common process. You do have to watch your directions and everything, but then you would have this whole unit here as one piece of fabric. So you could convert this however you like, if you would like to do that. Or if you are fun and like scrappy, you can do it as 2-inch squares. This however it works for you. I am probably going to convert at least these backgrounds here, these 4 rather. I'm going to convert these 4 backgrounds to the 2.5 by 4.5, or I wrote it backwards. I have 2.5 by 4.5, and then I am going to probably cut cut the squares, I will go ahead and convert for all these units and just show you an alternate way. Okay, I've got fabric. I have got fabric. So I'm going to primarily use this blue for the light color. That means in the middle I have to have something else, and I'm using the same light from Drawing Room for the backgrounds. So I could do a light blue or the other light blue, so they get enough contrast, versus something like this, which would have fairly low contrast. It's like, why bother? You're not seeing that middle unit very much at all. I also thought about tan. I could do tan, see, like this one, or I could do one that's a little bit darker tan, because if you look on this Drawing Room fabric, you can see around those little medallions there is tan. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and do this one. The block goes in this position if you keep them in position, and the one it will sit next to is block 6. So I think the tan and the darker blue will be really nice sitting next to this blue, which sits under the one that's black and the black paisley and has some tan in it. So okay, let me take the pattern here, and I'm going to cut the units, lay them out cut where I've used larger chunks, and then show you what I did. What I want to do is show you 4 ways to make that top row, because you're only going to end up with the same visual image of this row here, but there's 4 different ways that you can handle it. The way that it is written, I will show you first. So that would be 2 squares. Can you see it? I think you can see it. There we go. Okay, so there's 2 squares on either end, right? And then there's 2 half square triangles, and I've mocked them. There's the word, mocked them up. They're samples here, just pinned. And that gives you this image. Now there is a seam right here, and of course there's a seam here, 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 and here. There's a lot of seams. But there is really virtually no waste. There's only a tiny little bit of cutaway that you do for 2 at a time half square triangles. And if you're using your AccuQuilt machine, there's no waste from making them. Okay, so what is another option? We can take these 2 and instead make rectangles, 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. So we can do it like that. And that way there's just 3 seams, 1, 2, 3, and still no waste. We're not doing any sew and flips. Okay, the next thing is you may not want that seam here for your center of this. So you can make a traditional flying geese unit, a 2.5 by 4.5 inch unfinished flying geese unit. And what that would look like is this. You would have your flying geese unit, and then you would be doing sew and flip of both sides of that. And this will create, and you do 2.5 inch squares, this will create cutaways. So behind this fold over, you will be cutting away small triangles of the white and the blue. So that's way number 3, but there is no waste. I mean, there's no waste. Yeah, there's no waste. There's no seam. That's what I'm looking for. The word seam, there's no seam. There's just 2 seams here. The 4th way, number 4, will be sew and flips again, but more of them. Because now what you'll do is take 2.5 by 6.5, 2, 4, 6. So we are in 6.5 inch strips, 2.5 by 6.5. And now what do? Sew and flip here, sew and flip there of your navy. And so, trying to get this, I'm upside down and backwards, there we go. Upside down and backwards to the block. So sew and flip of this, and actually it's the same amount of sew and flip waste, because, whoops, that's not right, here we go. So you've got the sew and flip. So you've got triangles behind these 2, just like you did on the previous method. And then there you have just 1 seam. But once again, that seam is for this fabric, which some of you may have a fabric that you'd much prefer it to be full like this without a seam. So there are 4 ways to handle this. I have already cut these, 4 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and do this method. Here is everything mocked up and pinned down, and you can see that I've got all these sew and flips, which means this will have a little bit more waist. I mean, I know some of you will sew tiny little half square triangles, but I just don't do that for that small, so it'll be waist for me. But I wanted to keep the integrity of the print and have less of the seams going through it. So these are long prints here, but I do have seams here. The other way I could have done that is I could have made this a whole strip, which I could have. Why didn't I do that? Okay, I'm going to go back and do that. I think I was meaning to do that. I didn't, and I didn't. Duh. 2, 4, 6, 8. That means 2 by 2.5 by 8.5 will be this strip. Let me do that. I meant to do that. Okay, so I've already flipped this one out, traded it out for these two. Here is the long strip. And so basically I am just picking up the two shorter ones and then putting the long one. And then these guys go back for the mock-up. And I want to be sure that I have these in place because that helps me, besides looking at the pattern, it also helps me when I'm sewing. So there we go. So I have these with no seam, these with no seam. And then if I had wanted to, I could have done these as one of the other methods with the flying geese method. But I'm just going to go ahead and put the seam on those. All right, let me sew the block. Okay, I changed my mind. I went ahead and made these the solid square and the flying geese. So there'll be seams on either side right here because I'm a quilter and we change our mind. Now, I originally was going to do this and show you how to do this, let you learn by looking at the diagram and making your own notes and figuring it out. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and put a second one of these pages in there with the alternate. But you'll have to do the sew and flips yourself. I'm not writing any other directions for that. I will just put the one page and show you the sizes and make a note at the top that said that's for sew and flips. And you'll have to know how to do that, okay? So there'll be no further directions on the sew and flip. I have lots of patterns that have that in it, and I'm sure you've done it many, many times so far. So let me sew this, yes. And after that, we're going to do a quilt parade from last week's blocks. I think one of the challenges of doing the sew and flips, particularly with something like this, is being sure you keep them in the right order. This is the second row. Remember, I just switched this out to one long strip. And so I pinned this one on. It's got the direction I need there. And this is the one I'm going to sew. And I'm looking at it. It has to be sewn right along here. So I can just check it. Yeah, check it. There we go. My Slayers has a built-in guide beam. And so I'm just sewing from corner to corner right here and matching that guide beam out. There's all kinds of tools to help you do that. And that is a sew and flip. Because then what we'll do is press this open like this, all the way out to the edge, and then be trimming away these two pieces back here at the 1/4 inch mark. I highly recommend before you sew it all together, and even before you've done some of the sew and flips, like this is not trimmed yet, even before you trim, lay it out, take a photo. Then you can see if something might have been rotated. Maybe you would have accidentally done this, which is a different design. Or maybe you really do want the ends to look like mine, and if you flip them, they're going to look like this, that kind of a thing. So take that photo, and then you will be good. Then carefully pick things up, carefully put them back. That's what these design boards are so fantastic for. You can purchase them. I have a link for them, or you can make your own. There's tutorials out there. But they are so worth it for keeping track of everything. Okay, that's it. Here it is, finished up. I love it. I loved using this. And so remember, I'll go ahead and have a second page with those sizes if you want. If you're not going to do a scrappy and you want to have that those pieces larger. Also, for those of you who are wondering, see, now this will have more waist. There is all of the cutaways. So, for some of you, it might be worth it to have seams versus this. So anyways, you pick your poison. What I want to do next is just real quick show you the horizontal row on the block a day, and then I will put all these others up. But oh wait, before that, we want to do the quilt parade from the blocks last week from you and you and you. Andrea sends us some boot scootin' boogie here with her cowboy boots, sunflowers, and bees. Betty's got some gorgeous fabric. Each one is different. So those of you who are thinking, how does that going to look? There you go. Carol's is beautiful. Look at these florals. And there's hearts. See the hearts, the white hearts? I love that. Charlene is using my drawing room fabric. So pretty. Love yours. Christine's pretty in blue. This is this gorgeous dusty blue. Love those fabrics. Cindy has some awesome tulip pink there. Do you see the animals? And she's fussy cut everything. And the polka dots. Lots of polka dots. Jennifer's also got some tulip pink fabric. And I love how that shimmers. It's got that sort of variegated shimmer. So nice. Jill's is warm and cozy and looks like fall. Beautiful, beautiful colors. Liz, oh my goodness, look at these fabrics. They are incredible. She did some fussy cutting there to get her X's and O's. Beautiful. Marilee has gorgeous blues and browns or butterflies in the blue. So pretty. So many gorgeous blocks. Marilyn's is a lot of navy and blue. That's beautiful. That's kind of a soft blue. Mary's yellow and brown. Beautiful. I love that yellow fabric. It looks like wheat. It's got that kind of motion to it. We got Melissa's. This is our ambassador, Melissa, and she has this awesome birch tree fabric. You've been watching her blocks as we go along. Love it. Michelle is got a leap year block with all the frogs. Oh my goodness, how cute are they? All right, Pat has hers, black and white and red. There's a grouping photo. Today I was doing a lot of photos of just the block, but here is one that's all grouped together. Sandy's is orange like the creamsicle. Love, love, love it. Stephanie's is blue. You can see one of the other blocks peeking above it there. Love that, that sort of jaggy stripe. Very cool fabric. Let's see, we've got Susan here with grays and golds. I love that gold with there. It's pulling the gold from the dots in the gray. And we have a second Susan, and her blocks are all together. I wanted, not only is her beautiful block from last week, but I wanted to show you her block on the top. It's block number 2, I think, where she used a lot of different fabrics. And that just show you what that looks like. And wrap it up with my solstice that I did from when this quilt was originally done. And it's all scrappy. Every unit is a different piece of fabric. Thank you everybody so much for sharing your beautiful, beautiful blocks. So this is the row right here. What I'm going to do is I will just pull it down, those pieces down, so you can see it all laid out. Here it is laid out. And what you'll note is that this is actually the other corner. It's 4 across. And so this will have the smaller triangle on it, just like this end will. So we're now at the top right corner here. And that's why they look different. So you'll have the larger Haskell triangle down here, but then I'm putting the 4 corners on at the very end. So you will, I won't have one on there for now. I will just sew this up and then attach these. And then we just have, so this is kind of the middle of the quilt, and then we'll have the bottom half of the quilt. It actually is, it is the middle of the quilt. First, here is the block a day. So there you go. That's how it's going to look. So fun. I'm loving sewing with the Paradise Park that just came in, my brand new fabric line. The dots are a different line, and so is the little stripe, but the rest of it is Paradise Park. And I've got the blocks up on the wall for drawing room. Remember, you have the layout. You have the layout. You can go download it at the project page. And on today's download page, I will take a picture of this and have it there. So now I really want to work on those sashings And so I think that'll be a good focus for next Wednesday, is start getting the sashings done for this group here and down over there. And I actually have a few checkerboards that I was, cut extra at the time, and so I can get those. They'll be under here. So that's good. I'm excited about that. All right, my friend. I'm so happy you were here to visit. If you have not subscribed, please do that. It helps me and it helps you know when I have the videos come out. Remind you to come and visit and see me. Hit that like button too. So I love you. Mwah. Thank you for being here in the Sloan Zone. I will see you online.